Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and over there remotely is Joe DECAPITATION.
What's going on, Know-it-alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are locked and loaded, ready to go this week. This week, we're going to be reviewing Week 2 and then taking a look at Week 3, making our game picks there. And we got a lot of news to cover around the league. Let's go, Jim.
Buddy, yeah, it was a crazy Week 2 again, Joe, and it's nuts. And we are going remote because, again, I have come down with COVID, so I am doing my part and not sharing it with Joe and everybody else. I've been staying home the past couple of days here, but I just felt like we couldn't just miss this week. We could have easily just said, hey, Joe, let's not do the show, but there's so much going on right now, and there's so much I just got to talk about, Joe. This past week, it was crazy, Joe. So what's one of the highlights you want to talk about? Let's start off with, how about the Philadelphia-Minnesota game? How about that one to start right off with? And it wasn't more, I think, apparent in that game then, because you talked about over the preseason when we started talking about Minnesota and stuff like that and how much they might miss a Dalvin Cook, and they go all in at Alex Madison, and they said they were fine with that. And you can see that they are missing that little bit of that running game with just Alexander Madison back there, so much so that they go and get, just recently now we got the trade for Cam Akers from the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, Cam Akers just happened like today, officially. And Cam Akers, we knew the Rams like the past week. There's been a lot of smoke about Cam Akers possibly being moved. I wasn't really sure if it was actually going to happen because of how like everybody was kind of pushing this story. But Cam Akers, man, new town, new team, and let's see what he can do for the Vikings. Now, he's by far no Dalvin Cook. That's for damn sure. We know that he's had his struggles in LA, and that's probably what led to his departure from there. But he gets new life now in Minnesota and another chance to prove that he is a starting caliber back.
Yeah, Joe, and he could help out because, again, you remember back, was it 2021? I think he had that Achilles injury. I wasn't sure if he was going to come back from that, and he did. He actually played his best season, I think. But again, hasn't been a real big focal point for the Los Angeles Rams, and he's had his moments where he felt disgruntled about the franchise and things like that, and they went along with this new cat that they got there, and was it Kyron? And he did really well, so they were ready to walk away from him. And like you said, you can't replace a Dalvin Cook, but having a 1-2 kind of punch, maybe with a Cam Akers spelled in and now and then, could help the Minnesota Vikings out. It's better than what they got now, because Joe, starting off here at 0-2, it's not looking good for the Minnesota Vikings here and Kirk Cousins.
No, not at all. And that's kind of like what we were talking about in the offseason. We're like, we think they're going to drastically miss Dalvin Cook, not just be like, oh, well, we lost a nice piece and we can still overcome it. No, like Dalvin Cook was so important to that offense, and it opened up a lot more things for Kirk Cousins to link up with Justin Jefferson and those opportunities. Now, you don't have a Dalvin Cook. We thought they were going to struggle. They're definitely struggling up to this point. We know it's still early. It's only been a couple of weeks into the NFL, but things move fast in the NFL world. So they got to make some changes. They're hoping that Cam Akers coming in is going to give them like a nice, boost in the offense to be able to kind of make defenses aware of not just everybody's worried about Justin Jefferson, but not take away from the defense to not just be like, oh, well, all we got to do is double team Jefferson, and Alexander Madison isn't going to do much. So we just got to be able to cover the holes. I think that it's an effort. I just don't know if it's the answer.
Yeah, at this point, you could see how big of a point Justin Jefferson is for that game, and he's still producing. There's a shout-out to Nathaniel McClure in the house with us tonight. He says hello, and then also Brandon Matthews in the house with us tonight.
Got you. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show.
Brandon says Kirk will be traded to the Jets. Now, a lot of Jets fans, again, frustrated with their season. They were promised Aaron Rodgers for a full season and a Super Bowl. Not going to get it. How do you feel about, if you're a season ticket owner now, how much they sold this year, they just about sold out. And now you're not getting promised that, and this is what you have. You have a Zach Wilson who's creating multiple turnovers here, a defense that's trying to keep you hanging in the game, which they were for a little while against Dallas, but then eventually you just, bend and then eventually break here on that. But the likelihood for me of Kirk Cousins going to the Vikings right now is slim to none, unless they really get to week 8 or whatever. I think that's the trade deadline, that they just feel that they are not going to make the playoffs and that their season is in. But I don't think at this point they're ready just to cash it all in right now.
Well, that's the hard part, is that both those situations, right? Like for the Jets, they really don't want to wait till week 8. Yeah. For the Vikings, they have their starter. They don't need to say, all of a sudden we're gonna trade Kirk. We're gonna get rid of him. And the Vikings, even let's just say the Vikings wait till week 6 or 7, and then they do entertain that idea. The Jets are already basically out of it. Like if they're struggling that much all the way up to week 6 or 7, it's going to be really hard to turn that bus around and get back on the winning track. So for that to happen, it would have to happen early. The Jets would, and that's the other thing too, is the Jets have already invested draft capital in Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to turn around and say, hey, Minnesota, we want Kirk Cousins. Because Minnesota's going to say, well, he's our starter. So in order to get him from our hands, you got to give up a first-round pick. It's their call. So I don't think that the Jets, I think it's too high a value to give up at this point. Yes, you invested in Rodgers. Sadly, 4 plays into the season, Rodgers is done for the year. I mean, it is what it is right now for the Jets. The only other thing that I will say is that I feel like, unlike last season, the Jets defense isn't playing up to their full potential right now. They played last week, they're playing the Cowboys, and I'm watching the game and I'm just like, where's the adjustments on defense? They have all these stellar defensive players. The pass rush for the Jets was destroying the offensive line for the Cowboys. Yeah. They were always getting pressure on Dak Prescott, shutting down the run. Yep. But the back end of the defense, they played zone a lot in that game. And I'm like, you guys got Sauce Gardner. You have Sauce Gardner. CeeDee Lamb's their biggest weapon. Right. Have Sauce Gardner, go man-to-man on him. No matter where he lines up, Sauce Gardner lines up on him and just play man. You guys got the weapons. You can build pressure like they were doing all game. I swear, man, if they went man-to-man in that game, that changes the whole complexity of the game and might even change the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with Mike McCarthy's offense, the way they got it here. We got a few, I know you can't see the chat box, Joe, but we got the chat box going nuts here. All right, Matthews, let's go. He's talking about his Kirk Cousins scenario. He says both teams go 1-3, they will go after him. He's on a 1-year contract. So just before you get to that, Nathaniel, shout out to him. He said he went 10-6 last week, or first week 11-5, second week, so he did pretty good for picks. Shout out to Paul Maddie in the house with us tonight. From
Paul.
Yes.
What's going on, Paul?
Yes, that's right. And Brandon says, he goes, I still think they should call Fitzmagic. I love Fitzmagic in the commercials now, too. How about that?
Yes.
Fitzmagic. He looks really good. I love it. He's playing into that Fitzmagic scenario, and he's just a likable guy. But what do you think, again, would they go 1-3 scenario, Joe? Do you think they go after Kirk Cousins? You said no, again, because of what they got invested already. So you're holding true to that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, they already gave up draft picks for that. Yep. They, luckily, because of the injury, retain a 2024 first rounder.
Yes.
So that's some kind of a positive for the future. But even if they go 1-3, both of them, I don't think they're going to give up even more draft capital for a rental quarterback for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And now talking about that game quick, Philadelphia, I think the first 2 weeks I don't know, maybe it's just me, but what's your take on this? I'm looking at this offense, and it doesn't look the same as last year. I think a lot of it defensively, they're doing very well and keeping them in these games and doing well, but offensively, it seems like they're stuttering a little bit here, and namely some of the play calling, or this how they're utilizing, I think, Jalen Hurts here. I think he's not being able to get out there and make some big plays to his key makers. And now you've actually seen, A.J. Brown be a little disgusted what's going on in the offense here. And I understand if you're running the football, which they were able to do effectively, I think even in the last game, why not go with it? But again, offense looks a little different. And these past 2 games have been closer than really expected.
I tell you, the running game part, they Miles Sanders exits, DeAndre Swift comes in and makes that running game move really well. Like, he's a gifted back to begin with. Still don't understand why Detroit kind of put him in the doghouse and let him walk. But again, like, the Eagles offense, we thought it was going to be more explosive than before. Like, everybody's coming back again. Everybody's played a whole season and another offseason together. There's a lot of chemistry. There's a lot of trust in there with Hurts and his receivers. We just kind of thought that this was going to be the season where the Eagles were going to take over the NFL. Like, they were going to be the really big, tough team to deal with week in and week out, no matter who they played. But I got to say, I think Hurts and some of the play calling that's been called is a little lackluster. Like, Jalen Hurts himself, I feel like, is trying to do too much a lot of times now. You see him on the football field when he rushes, just taking off and running. But it seems like a lot of times Hurts is putting either too much pressure on himself. He's thinking that he has to fit the ball in a certain place instead of just throwing it away or just getting out of trouble. But, man, ball security. Ball security is a big thing, and Hurts has been struggling as of late with that. So there's a lot of things you could kind of point the finger at. It always does start with the quarterback. That's usually where the blame goes to, but it's partially his fault. But I also blame the offensive coordinator for calling some of the plays that he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you're talking about the fact that Detroit let Swift go. I mean, and he's running like an animal there in
great
Philadelphia.
running back.
But let me tell you though, even Detroit's doing really good with Montgomery too as well. I mean, he's found a nice spot there too in Detroit. But
he just got hurt too.
Yeah, I know. Jahmyr Gibbs fills in for him. He's got 59 yards on the season right now. Nathaniel McWhirter says Kirk is probably not going to be traded, mainly because he is going to have to learn that system. I do think that they go after a quarterback, but more as a backup and not as a starter. I think the Jets go after Colt McCoy. Pew, pew, pew. Colt McCoy makes his return to New York, but not with the Giants, but with the Jets. How about that headline?
Yeah, right. I don't know. We'll see. I listen, from all reports that are coming out of New York right now, they still have trust in Zach Wilson. They said that he played. They said he played better than his stats show last week. Yep. And who knows? Maybe the offensive staff for the Jets and stuff, they're looking for certain things that we're not, right? We look at the stats. We look at like, oh, well, how many touchdowns did he throw? Oh, well, maybe the offense is dictating something different, and that we're not privy to see that from a coaching standpoint. So they still have trust in him. They still believe in him. It's just a matter of limiting mistakes. I feel like that's what Wilson has been doing as of late, is just way too many fundamental mistakes. And it looks to me like he's still kind of the same raw talent that he was a year ago.
All right, we've got Donald Spence in the house with us tonight.
Oh, man. There we go. Know-it-all. Yeah. Donald, what's up, baby?
Hashtag know-it-all.
He says, feed Swift, and it'll open up the passing game for the Eagles. McCoy is a bum. Looking good, Joe, he says.
Appreciate that, bro.
Joe looking good.
Appreciate that.
You need to highlight your face a little more, though, Joe. You're in the shadows a little bit.
The lighting is bad here. Yeah. I live in the darkness.
He lives in the darkness.
Just like Rodgers.
Yes, Donald Spence says, what's good, Joe? What's good? Not the Raiders, right? Not the Raiders at this point, right?
No, definitely not. I'm looking towards next year already.
Yes, absolutely. Donald Spence, I think he's a Raiders fan too as well, right? Is he a
He
Raider
is.
guy?
He is a Raiders fan.
That's right. All right. So, yeah, let us know in your comments what you guys think about these subjects here. And he just flipped me to Bird. Oh, man, that's nice. What? Hey, I brought up your fandom. I'm sorry. Whatever. I'm not feeling so hot about my franchise right now as well either. All right, Joe. All right, what else do we got here on the docket here? Anything else that really surprised you on some of these other games here? Any calls that were, crazy, that you thought might be a little suspicious here, or suspect this week? I know some of the calls for me, at least with the referees, I don't get what's a block in the back anymore. It seems like if somebody gets shoved and they go to the ground offensively, and then they'll call it mainly on returns, but I see block in the back like constantly, during plays on the offense, and they're just not calling it all the time. It's just, and some other different things, so very selective, it seems like, with some calls here. Even hands to the face of the quarterback and certain quarterbacks too, I think.
Well, it goes hand in hand with the rules. All the referees, they're taught the same thing. That doesn't mean they're going to call it the same way. And that's always been a big problem in the NFL, is that it's open to interpretation with the rules. Even though they make them like, Section A, Section B, very regimented and everything in its description, one guy to another referee will call it differently. And that's the big problem. So until the NFL gets these guys in the offseason and gets them all, full-time, we've been calling for full-time refs, because that's the only way we feel like they're going to all be on the same page. And be like, listen, you go through film every single year. Like, oh, this was the call. Was it right or wrong? It was wrong. Okay, what would you call there? There's all these classes that they should be taking in the offseason, and meetings they should be doing to kind of correct these issues for the upcoming season. And so far, it hasn't happened. So until it does, we're going to see terrible calls be made, or we're going to see penalties not be called. Like we have every single season.
Yeah. Because even I'm watching the Kansas City game with Jacksonville. That's one of the games I want to bring up, I guess, because that ended up getting right down to the wire. And there's a play at the end there before they throw to Calvin Ridley in the end zone that ended up being incomplete. There's a play right before that I think it's the quarterback ends up throwing it, and it throws, like, he gets hit and he releases the ball, Trevor Lawrence, and it goes backwards. So the review is whether it's a forward pass or it's the fumble, and they end up calling it a fumble, and then it went out of bounds. So they lost the time, lost it down. But I'm watching that play. He gets hit at the legs by Chris Jones, and a dude on the other side, I'm trying to remember what defensive lineman comes up, but just wallops Trevor Lawrence right to the dome, and like he just and then that's how he even ends up losing the ball and gets hit, and they're reviewing whether it's a fumble or not, and not the physical hit to the blow of the face of a Trevor Lawrence, and I don't
because that. Yeah, because that's not what the review is for.
Well, I get that, but how do you not call it instantly? It was so
but that's the reason why they didn't see it, because when you look at that scrum that was happening and that guy hits him in the head, refs they just plain simple didn't see it. And then when you're going to do a review, as a referee, when you're called to do a review, you're supposed to review only the thing you're reviewing. You're not reviewing and looking for any other penalty that's in the play. So yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. Like, they just didn't see it, and that it is. It is what it is, bro.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Here you go. We've got Donald says calls will go to the Chiefs. And what does he say? I'm sorry here. Go to go to the Creeps and Whiners all year, 100%. Sometimes it seems like that. Sometimes. I try to be down the middle. Again, and my son's a Chiefs fan. I'm sorry, you guys, but he ended up being one somehow. I don't know. If my Giants didn't suck so bad either, I could have maybe prevented that. But all
I gotta say is that we've already seen the evidence, right? Week 1. The Chiefs played the Lions. Jawan Taylor getting away with not only illegal formation, but also a false start the whole entire game until the very last drive the Chiefs had. So evidence is there that they get away with a lot.
Yeah. I think Micah Parsons was lining up in the neutral zone multiple times in that that Jets game. He was right on the ball, and they were not calling it at all.
Right. and there's certain teams like the Chiefs,
so fast.
like sometimes the Patriots have gotten away with it, but they hold all the time and don't get called for it. Like this happens all the time, and it's surprising to me that, you know, even if a guy's in a freaking arm lock, you know what I mean, he's in a reverse naked choke, they don't call holding. So it's kind of insane.
Paul Matty says biting kneecaps. And then true. And then Donald Spence says true story, guys. Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it sometimes. But yeah, that game was tight. You know, went down to the wire, but you know, calls you never know.
Good game.
Nathaniel says that Chargers game was a bit of a surprise to him over Tennessee, but Tennessee fought hard. It came back, but you know what happens too when you don't have an Austin Eckler back there too makes a big difference because he's a big part of their offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, their offense, as good as it is, they do really rely on Austin Eckler for a lot of it because he's such a threat in all different modes. He can pass, catch out of the backfield. He runs between the tackles well. He breaks and makes you miss. Like, the guy is just a all-around utility belt of a running back that he is just he does everything extremely well. So the guy is such a big part of that offense. When you lose someone that is such a big part, it really hinders, you know, how you can run your offense and what plays you can even call.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe, absolutely. But one of the major things I think that came out of Monday night's games, we'll just jump to them quick because it's big news, is the fact that Nick Chubb goes down with a season-ending injury. And you know it's bad when they – because you see him holding his knee, you know, after the fact, you know. But then all of a sudden when they go to look at the replay, they're like, oh, we're not going to show you this. So I'm like, oh, man, it's done there. So, I mean, it's no good. But we countlessly talk about how big, important part of this offense Nick Chubb is for these guys. And no more now than before. You know, luckily they go and get Kareem Hunt sitting there waiting. You know, what a perfect situation for him to come back here for them. You know, unfortunately with the circumstances, but already knows the offense, was performing well with them. Just has to get back into football shape, but still, without Nick Chubb, what are their chances of what's their future here for Cleveland?
I mean, the biggest thing for them, right, is, hey, it really sucks. The injury that happened to Nick Chubb really blows. The guy's just a dynamite running back. We've been saying that for years now since he's entered the league. But going to be 27 and now yet again another terrible injury that he's got to overcome. He's going to overcome it, no doubt about it. He'll be ready for next year. But hey, the luxury that Cleveland has right now is the fact that Kareem Hunt was available then. I'm shocked that he was a free agent this whole time. Baltimore Ravens didn't call him. Like, the Colts didn't call him. Like, teams that really needed that boost in the running back, I'm surprised they never could picked up the phone and got a deal done. So Kareem Hunt's available. Cleveland ends up signing him. You know, as soon as I heard that he's going for a visit, I'm just like, it's done. It's already done. He's going to be the running back. So now that Cleveland's got their former running back, Kareem Hunt's going to do some good things with him. Just like you mentioned, Jim, like, obviously the football shape, he's been working out, but it's not the same thing as being in football shape, you know, and playing on Sundays. So he's going to do his best to get back in shape. And I think in probably like 2 weeks, maybe even a week, not this week, this game coming up, but Kareem Hunt's going to take over that backfield. Kareem Hunt's going to be the starter because he's plug and play basically for Cleveland. He just didn't spend the offseason with the Cleveland Browns. That's all. Like, he played last year with them. So he already knows the offense. He knows the quarterback. He knows Kevin Stefanski. They all know each other. So he's going to get snaps, I think, this week, but I look towards like maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the road, he'll end up being the starter. And I don't think they're going to, like, he's not Nick Chubb, but I think he's definitely starter-worthy running back that's going to do very well for them.
Absolutely. I think you were talking about even Jerome Ford here, who played pretty well for them when Nick Chubb wasn't in there. But again, that's, you know, you're not sure how that's going to play out with a season. So to get a veteran there in your backfield that already knows the system that you can rely on, it's only going to help because let me tell you, If Deshaun Watson has to sit back there and throw the ball more often, I think they're going to struggle. He's just not up to par what he potentially or what he was before. And I don't know if it's the system again. I don't know if they're running routes too deep, or I doubt that they're just not getting open. But it seemed like he was back there waiting forever for somebody to get open, and then he'd have to take off running, or he was getting sacked or creating turnovers. And the Cleveland had a good shot at winning that game. They're in it, and for the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, the only way they scored was on defense, and they won the game. You can't go out and play like that. You have a good defense keeping you in it. Your offense was doing some stuff, but the fact that a team beats you by the defense scoring all of their points is unacceptable. And if they need to get further, in this division and get to the playoffs, they need to make some changes here.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Cleveland, though, in their offense, I almost think that Deshaun Watson now is got tunnel vision for Amari Cooper. And I think he needs to learn to distribute the football to all receivers, not just him. And the other thing that's interesting to me that I noticed in the Steeler game is David Njoku. So guy signs a big, huge, big-time money contract to remain a tight end for the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
And they're using him like the Detroit Lions normally use tight ends, like very sparingly. Like he's not getting on the field a ton. I expected this guy to be like a big part of this offense, along with obviously Cooper and Elijah Moore. And I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing creative plays to get these guys on the football field. I'm not seeing Deshaun Watson himself spreading the ball around. Like, don't worry about Cooper. Cooper's going to get his catches because he's that good of a receiver. But Elijah Moore is another really good receiver you could be throwing to and connecting there. And I just wonder that going forward, if Deshaun Watson can't improve his accuracy, then it's going to drastically limit this team into how far they can actually go. Because we knew that early, before the season started, we talked about them. We knew that they were a really good team, defensively and offensively. They had all the pieces in place. It's just a matter of how close Watson could be to where he was with Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So until that day comes, that offense is going to continue to struggle. Now, the only good thing is that they managed to get Kareem Hunt, even though Nick Chubb is going down. Now, Kareem Hunt's going to open up some things too, because he's also really good at pass catching out of the backfield. So maybe they can utilize him in that passing game to hopefully get Deshaun Watson and his confidence boosted up a little bit more, and eliminate some mistakes that way.
All right, we got a few different comments here. Holy moly! Where are we at now? Yeah, off topic. We'll get to Paul Matty in a second. Brandon Capita says, "Why are you guys in two different locations?" Well, I have COVID right now, so I don't want to spread it to Joe. Joe's at home safely. I'm here quarantined away from everybody. Brandon Capita says he's staring down his targets. There you go. So he agrees with you there. He said, and then Njoku fumbled in crunch time. Absolutely. Nathaniel McWirt says, I don't think the problem is Watson, but I do think it is a fit. Yeah, it could be, Joe. For some reason, again, Zoom is dumb, and now all of a sudden they're putting time limits on meetings. So we got a 7.5 minute thing, and then I might have to send you another invite again, which is stupid. This is so dumb. How do people don't have meetings this low, and if you got to pay for it, it's ridiculous. So everybody that's watching, we appreciate you guys watching. Just keep with us here and stuff, because as we go through this nonsense, we kind of put this together quick because we felt like we had to keep talking about some of the stuff that's coming out right here with the NFL and shit. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. So here we go. Paul Matty says, off topic, let's get a Dion Colorado short take, Joe. What do you think about what's going on with Colorado, the Buffaloes, and Dion, his impact?
I mean, his impact on college football alone is going to be great. He's already opened so many doors for, the black colleges and able to open up the minds and the eyes of the big dogs. You know what I mean? The Division I guys that when they are looking for talent, don't be so sure to overlook these guys. You know what I mean? So guys like Travis Hunter, that's come splashed on the scene. Unfortunately, he got injured this past week, but he's a very special athlete. Like he can play both ways, offense, defense. Extremely good kid, and he's got a bright future for sure in football. For Dion, listen, there's a lot of hype around Dion in Colorado, and it is warranted to a point. The only thing that I've noticed in the past couple of weeks is that they've beaten teams they were expected to beat. Like Colorado State was a little bit closer of a game, but they were expected to beat them. You know, the first week they beat Nebraska, they beat them. But now going forward, when are they going to be truly tested? Because the hype is huge right now, because obviously it's Deion Sanders leading the charge with all those players, and everybody's buying in, which is great. But when are they going to face a real test? Like, if they ever have to face an Alabama, if they ever have to face a Clemson, if they ever have to face a Michigan, something like that, like big dogs. When they have to face a team like that, I don't know what their schedule is going forward, but that's going to be the true test to see how good this team actually is.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I think we're going to see that when they go to face one of these ranked teams again to see how they can play. I think it's crazy that shows you almost how much like just a different attitude like can change, or like motivation. We've seen it with like a Dan Campbell and things like that in the NFL with some other guys and stuff. And I think just that swagger, or that motivation, I think can do a lot, and it changes things. They talk about like we see the difference with that Cleveland Browns defense here, just with Jim Schwartz being there, and they had mentioned in the broadcast the fact that he wants them to celebrate after every big thing. They want to have a camaraderie and do that, and it's kind of made that defense better. And now there's an actual camaraderie with everybody there, and they feel like more of a team now because of things like that. Because hey, our coach allows us to be ourselves. Hey, we feel like a group of friends now, not just teammates that are trying to rely on each other. So,
and here's the other thing about Dion. Dion as a coach is almost like he's almost like a father figure to these kids, because he really genuinely cares for their well-being and their success. And he's made that known time and time again to them. So they absolutely love him. Like, he loves his players love him, and it's just like a gigantic family. And that's how Dion treats it. So these kids are not only doing everything they have to do in practice, and maybe even spending extra time with the coaching staff or whatever, but when it comes game day, they're playing their hearts out for not only themselves, but also for Dion. So it's a special connection that the players and the coaches have together. And it's so far, it's an amazing story. I hope it continues. But again, as far as like how good is Colorado as a team, we haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely, Joe. I'm messing with some cams here just so we can get going here, because I know it's going to be cutting us short on this stupid thing. So
that's right.
Bear with me, visually again. But everybody, we thank you so much for joining us here. We got people on the restream here. Paul Matty agrees with you on that one. He says Dion already said he would not coach pro because he can't deal with the athletes who don't love the game. And Nathaniel said they face Oregon next week. So
that's a good one.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
That's why I remember looking ahead. So that's a good test. You want to talk about litmus test and how good you guys really can be.
Yeah.
Paul Matty says homie has a gold whistle. Yeah. And that's it, man. That's Dion.
Hey.
He's always been that flash and flare. You know what I'm saying?
Remember when Dion came out in the draft, how much gold chains the dude was wearing? Like that's just who he is, man. He loves to be flashy. He loves to be, different. He likes to have different things than everybody else, and kudos to him, man. He's just rocking how he rocks.
Yep, absolutely. Before I lose you here, quick, and your brother wants to talk about Bijan a little bit.
Oh, we will.
All right,
we will.
Yep, absolutely. Paul Matty agrees again. So there you go. So why don't you? I think you guys 3 minutes here to break down Bijan Robinson. Then I guess quick while I mess with the cameras here.
Bijan Robinson. What can you say about the guy? The guy's super special when he came out of college. That's why he was not only the number one rated running back, but some people even believed he was the number one college football player coming out. And I'll tell you right now, the kid looked the part in college. The kid proved it. And now he's in the NFL. And I think he's doing the same thing he was doing in college. He's proving it. Super difficult to get a read on in terms of trying to tackle the guy. He's got some amazing moves. And I saw, like, even last week, right? They played Green Bay. I saw a lot of defenders missing him. Like, he was making guys like trying to run towards him, but like almost like they were on skates. They couldn't even stay with him. So I'll tell you right now, Bijan Robinson, and he does everything extremely well. So he's a very gifted player. I think he's going to be that next really good to great running back in the NFL. And I think he's already proving it, even though it's only been 2 weeks. But man, he's a difference maker for sure. And that's why Atlanta Falcons took him in the draft, is because they needed another playmaker just to kind of help this offense put points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's a big thing for the Atlanta Falcons too, because you saw even Desmond Ridder, with making some mistakes here and there. A lot of fantasy owners, especially, really complaining about the fact that Kyle Pitts, that's your guy, and that's he's more of like a receiving tight end, but really hasn't been a major focal point with these guys yet. And they're really revolving around the running game, and so the fact that he's not a factor here. A lot of fantasy owners are really getting disgruntled here with a Kyle Pitts here in the offense, the way it runs around the running backs and Arthur Smith's offense. If I get this going here, I'm going to try. Everybody, bear with me here. I'm going to try and invite Joe again one more time here to the chat. Let's see if I can get him going here. I got to figure out how to do this again, though. Here we go. Participants, invite. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about any of these games here while I try and get Joe set up here. Let me know what you guys think about the games this week and what you think moving forward with some of these guys here. I know one of the tough ones here, looking at the games here, was let's talk about the Giants game and the Arizona Cardinals. How about that? The Arizona Cardinals bust out into a huge lead. They go up 20 to nothing here against the New York Football Giants here. And I'm watching it as a Giants fan, freaking out, not sure what's going on. I'm like, are we going to just lose again? Like, ready to shut the game off, right? Oh, look at this. I'm all zoomed in right here now. What the hell is going on? All right. But yeah, I'm ready to shut the game off, and I can't believe what I'm seeing in front of my eyes here. Everything the Giants were not doing, whether alone doing, they were not blocking. They couldn't get the running game going. It just was putrid altogether. Mistake after mistake after mistake. And they couldn't do anything right. And there we go. We got Joe back. Joe, you're back with us. You're back with us.
I'm back.
How dare Zoom trying to keep us down? I'm trying to do this all while I'm freaking live. Yeah. It's crazy, man, but this is
they're trying to cancel me. They can't.
No.
We won't let them.
No, hell no. We won't go. All right. They're trying to bring people together here, all right? And they're separating us and making me pay a fee here. All right, so I'm going to fix the screen here. We're back here. So I was trying to get things going, but yammering and stuff, so I apologize, everybody, but trying to multitask. So let me get to your comments here. But, yeah, I was talking about the Arizona Cardinals here, Joe, getting into a huge start and going up 20 to nothing. And and the Giants, like, we're watching as Giants fans. You're reading our group chats here with your other Giants friends. And, like, again, we were looking to shut the TV off. I wouldn't ever do that with my team. It's disgusting to watch, but couldn't do anything right at all throughout the first half. But I'm watching the offense, and, I'm getting it because we had injuries on the front, on the line altogether anyways. Started, a young tackle on the left tackle anyways, because Andrew Thomas was even injured with the hamstring still, and he's not playing. So I didn't expect that we were going to start off really strong, but 20-0, it looked really bad for starters, but then we got to turn around. But why don't you tell me about the first half here, Joe?
It was pretty ugly. That's what it was. Just utter domination by the Cardinals, and I don't even. Let's just say this: even the Giants staff was surprised, because I noticed on the sideline, like Brian Daboll was like, "What the hell is happening right now? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing wrong?" It was, and if you notice, it almost seemed like first half. That offense, remember we talked about this last week, is that we thought maybe Daboll should take over the play calling duties. And last week it was pretty miserable. This week in the first half, offense wasn't going anywhere. And they were struggling to move the ball. Yeah, sometimes they got a first down here and there, but then they would stall out. So it almost looked like when the camera panned over to Daboll in the second half, we saw him have this white sheet of paper, not a playbook, but he had this white sheet of paper. He had a pen in his hand, and it looked like he was drawing plays or crossing plays off as he went, like a printed part of it. And it seemed like once he kind of what looked like he was calling the plays, things started to roll a little bit better. It sucked that Saquon Barkley went down, but even with that setback, it seemed like the Giants' offense had better play calling all of a sudden. They started to move the ball and get kind of right back into this thing.
All right, we're going to the chat box, and it was getting kind of crazy there, but I'm getting some slack from some peeps. We got Paul Batty says Cardinals suck, dead baby dick. All right, and oh man, that's funny as hell.
Oh no. We suck again.
And then Brandon Tapp says the Cardinals lost in the only way the Cardinals could. Paul Manny says, Joe, I love the superstar Billy Graham goatee. And then and Mike Tackett says, who's hosting the stream? The Cardinals. Oh, that's rough, man. See, that's what I mean. That's some rough stuff. I'm trying to deal with the fact that Zoom won't let us do a Zoom meeting as long as we want. They're timing the meeting, like unless we pay them. Like that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's all about money.
When did this happen?
It's all about money.
You know what I'm saying? So. God damn. And then, I just didn't want to do the StreamYard. I'm sorry. StreamYard was being a pain too. It, wants everything from me. They want my firstborn and whatever. But we're back on here again.
Giants, Cardinals.
But the Giants, again, it was looking meek, but I'm in agreement with you, Joe. I really feel, because I saw even the playbook, the card was in Daboll's hand on that whole second half and in his face, and he's looking at the plays. And then I swear he started picking up play calling because it was a totally different thing. Kafka in the last couple of weeks had looked so dull and things like that, that they weren't coming up with anything spectacular. Then all of a sudden, the second half was a total mix. Different play actions, different things to get Daniel Jones out, not just all deep routes, a lot of crossing routes, and to effectively get Jalen Hyatt out. But then also maybe he went into the locker room, because we had said it in our group chat as well. It seemed like Daniel Jones was afraid of those turnovers. It did not want to let it loose. And he maybe said something in the second and halftime, said, Daniel, you got these deep ball opportunities. Let it loose, brother. Let it go. And because he had a couple shots in the deep in the first half that he never took, that he could have probably did in the second half, and got a Jalen Hyatt open and got some big plays. And they were able to score out fast, and they came right back into the game. We got some more comments here. Paul Manny says, just a suggestion, you guys should have a live chat in my group at 1 p.m. and promote your show. I will promote the shit out of it. Awesome. I appreciate that.
I like it.
Hashtag
really
know it all.
Yeah, like a pregame show before the games start. We could do that or something like that.
We could do that.
Joe? Set that up.
We'll
do it the same way here, but maybe I'll set up I'll just do it via Restream or something. I think I can invite you next time. We'll do it better next time.
We'll do pregame football.
Pregame. Yeah, maybe we'll do
Brought to you by Raise Energy.
Yeah, Raise Energy.
If you want to get jacked up with energy, drink Raise.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just ordered another 3 cases, and dude, it is amazing stuff. I'm just going to get to it now just even to tell you guys about Raise. Not that I have to, but Raise, let me tell you. Use our promo code, because it's Raise Them Up here. Go to checkout. You put the promo code in. It's a coupon. It's going to save you some cash on your shipping. and everything. And I have COVID right now, and I couldn't get through with this without even some of my Rays. I'm doing the voodoo right now, and this is keeping me going because, again, I was laying in bed earlier, and I was like, I wanted to do the show, and I can barely talk. You guys can hear it now, and it's just keeping me going. I may feel it tomorrow, but right now, Rays has got me going. All right, we got the chat box lighting up again. Holy moly. All right, Paul Matty says, hell yeah, okay. We'll set it up. We'll do a promo, though, before we do it. Let everybody know in your group that we're going to be doing it, so be there, and then we'll send an event. How about that, Joe?
For sure.
Speaking of live events, too, we got to get some live events going. We got some jerseys to give away. We're going to be notifying some people, so hopefully you get out there. And if you guys have an establishment around here in the area or whatever you want us to go to, give them a shout-out. Give us a shout-out, and we can try and make that happen for you. Mike Tackett says, now we know why Williams abruptly resigned. The FBI raided Chicago Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams' home. The Sting found some extremely sensitive content, and Williams will most likely never coach again for Chicago or any NFL team for the rest of his life. A source familiar with the situation says.
Yo, that guy was into kiddie porn.
Probably.
That's what's up.
He's got to be. He's got to be something.
He's probably part of the, transporting children or, sex trafficking, something. That guy's in some deep doo-doo.
That's some fucked up shit, though, too, man. If you're into that shit, man, that's some fucked up shit. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in our country that's really messed up that a lot of people are allowing, and that shit can't go on anymore. So I thought it was just because even the fact that they've sucked so bad, too. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I just quit now. We're so terrible. We just can't get it done.
Well, I think they were just they took that charge and are like, listen, we'll throw that charge out because your Bears suck so bad that we won't even charge you with that. But we're going to charge you all these other, violations.
Yeah, and getting back to the Giants game again, one more fact. You can't see it on your screen, Joe, here, but I'm bringing up a stat line here. Says Daniel Jones in that second half is the first player in NFL history with a second half stat line like this. 250-plus passing yards, 50-plus rushing yards, 2 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown, and 0 turnovers. So he's making history now with that comeback, and I swear it is Brian Daboll, and I wouldn't be surprised, well, maybe even after this Thursday, because it's such a short week, that, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't happy with Mike Kafka last year, because even when there were talks about people looking into him as a head coach, and I don't even think we had a top 15 ranked offense that people were interested in this guy. And they haven't looked good recently. So I will not be surprised if Brian Daboll comes out and says, hey, I'm taking over offensive play calling duties. And I would like that because I really swear that was the difference.
Well, that's what happened, halfway through that game, really, And going forward, Daboll's not going to hand the play calling duties back over. You saw what happened when Kafka was calling them for the first week and a half. Now, Daboll called in one half. Daboll's offensive play calling was that much more successful than the first week and a half of Kafka calling plays. Like, you just saw the morale uptick. You saw how much better the play calling was, how creative it was. The execution was there. Everybody was on the same page. So going forward, there's no doubt in our minds that Daboll is going to hold on to the play calling duties and not relinquish that again.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I mean, it's crazy, but they came back. They won. I'm happy. Now they're 1-1. Technically,
I can't believe it. Honestly, I can't believe they came back and won that game.
I know,
because in the NFL, you're up 20-0. And you have even the slightest good defense, you pretty much win those games. Like, you never give those up unless you're the Raiders defense. That could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Shout out to Raiders fans out there. All right. So again, when I was trying to change screens over and stuff like that, I wasn't sure what game I was going to get into here. But again, the Giants one was a major thing I wanted to talk about.
That was a good one.
But the Bills fighting back strong in their game, which is big. And Miami Dolphins, New England. I don't know if I'm out there with some other Patriots fans. I'm sure they're upset about that last call by the refs here at the first down marker here when it was 4th down in the pitch back with Hunter Henry and Cole Strange. But again, after the review, he was short of that call here, but it was a tough game. We see Bill Belichick planning at the best. That team really gave it to the Miami Dolphins, and they, it was a tough game right down to the end, but the Dolphins edged them out, and it was such a good game here.
Listen,
it was tough.
We talked about it, in the offseason on the potential of the Dolphins. We talked about if there was some way we could be like, well, there's going to be a force field around Tua so we can't get hurt. That could really propel that Dolphins offense and that defense to be really special this year. And we're seeing it right now. Tua last season he was on fire. Like, that offense was incredible to watch. It was exciting to watch, and it was very difficult to stop with Tua healthy. Now that Tua's healthy this year, you're seeing the same thing happen. Tyreek Hill's going crazy. Jalen Waddle going crazy. Tua just dotting up defenses. So you're seeing the same success they had last year, but they got to keep protecting Tua. They got to hopefully, do whatever they have to keep this team as healthy as possible down the stretch. And who knows, we might see the Dolphins kind of push for this division.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely tight here, and you see the chess battle that's going on between Mike McDaniels and Bill Belichick right there. But it was close, no matter what. The Patriots.
It was a good game
to get in there. It's nuts.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. We used to do a segment here. We're trying to bring back some of our segments too. We used to do it a while ago, and we're gonna rub them back into our weekly show. But everybody's been asking about the decapitation of the week, we're going to bring it back this week. Joe found a decapitation of the week, so we're going to roll it through here. Joe cannot see it, but I'll play it out with you here. But Joe already knows what play it is here, but let's get to it. Here's Joe DeCapita's decapitation of the week.
Banned in most countries, but not here. It's time for your decapitation.
All right, here we go. Joe's decapitation, and here it is. It's Keith Murray hit with the big hit on Ryan Tannehill here. You don't see it in that play, but here it is. Bang! Lighten him up. Let's watch it in reverse now.
I can picture it.
Oh, dude. Almost the helmet into the chin, but not quite, so it's not a penalty.
Yeah, the chest. He hits him in the chest first and then tosses him aside like a rag doll. It was ridiculous. If that's not the epitome of the title of that segment, nothing is. The guy was literally trying to take his head off.
Yeah, absolutely. And here it is. Again.
Banned in most countries, but not here. It's time for your decapitation.
Yeah, and you're going to see more of those here. We're going to get them out there for everybody. The decapitation of the week. And I tell you, that's a textbook right there. If you guys want to see how to hit a quarterback and not get called with it and get that helmet close enough to the chin without making them bleed and everything, you're good. Checked out that play right there. Absolutely. All right, we've got a comment here. It says, Mike Tackey, I heard about that crazy Nathaniel McWhort. Or Broncos one, apparently, he says. I'm not sure what that one was talking about, but...
Well, Broncos game, Washington?
Perhaps. The Broncos
Washington balled out.
Controversial maybe with that one? Was there anything controversial with that one? Barely pulled that one out, right?
The controversy was the Denver Broncos still failing what's happening in Denver because there's been reports now, I know it's only 2 weeks in, but now, things are starting to stir up, that Sean Payton isn't all that excited about working with Russell Wilson after all. That sounds like the two are a little bit, I'm not going to say they're at odds, but they have some disagreements from time to time.
It's phony stuff.
And the issue with it is that you could see it on the field. The offense, how it's run, Sean Payton runs a tight ship, and if you don't execute the way he likes, which we've seen it from Russell Wilson before, missed throws, maybe even he's not looking at, prioritizing a certain receiver when he's supposed to be. So we saw a little bit of lackluster last year with him, and it kind of led to like a lot of the Broncos fans double thinking the acquisition of him. So that's what it sounds like in Denver right now. Sounds like not going to say like they're at odds, but I'm going to say that they definitely disagree on some things, and it shows on the football field, which is what some people are claiming that is the issue with the offense. They're not being able to put up points like they expected to, even with Jerry Jeudy back. Jerry Jeudy came back this week, so you can't even say, "Oh, well, it's because all they really have is Sutton." They had Jeudy too, and they still weren't able to get it done.
Right, yeah. It was tough to watch at times too, trying to get things going. I'm trying to remember exactly about that game, but it did come down to the wire, and it was close. I think it was the last ditch throw. Yeah, that one. That's actually, yeah. It was that. It was the one where they scored. How about that play at the end, Joe? Do you remember this now? It was
double coverage.
It was the bomb at the end, and I think Washington was there, tipped off their hands back to Denver, and they caught it in the end zone on one of those Hail Mary throws. And they
I saw that.
They brought it within one or whatever, and they needed the or maybe even two, and they needed the 2-point conversion to go into overtime. Yeah. And they just missed it. Couldn't get it. But what a game. I couldn't believe that. I was blown away. That's what it was. Because I did remember see that play, and I called my wife into the room. I'm like, you got to check this out. Because, I mean, this is why that play still exists and why they still even try and attempt at this stuff, because you never know. I mean, tip, there's a receiver in the spot, boom, comes down with it, and you're in the game still. But for him to come up short in that, it had to have been bittersweet for those guys.
I'll tell you what's more embarrassing is the Terry McLaurin touchdown catch between two defenders. Should have never happened. Like, one, you let Terry McLaurin behind you on coverage, and two, you let Terry McLaurin catch that ball right in between you. Like, it's not even like you were like he had a step on you or anything. You guys were right there, and you just let it happen. Yeah. So now you've been posterized by Scary Terry. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. All right, Joe. One of the other topics I want to talk about this week, too, is we've got a couple of teams there. We talked about the Minnesota Vikings with an 0-2 start. But, excuse me, the Bengals and the Chargers, two teams that are expected to make the playoffs, are doing pretty well, and, the Bengals have gotten to a slow start before and still made it, but we've looked over at a bunch of different takes and stats and what the percentage is to make the playoffs after going at 0-2. I'm looking more of it as who's going to be going 0-3, because then it's a real conversation. But what do the Bengals have to do here to turn this thing around? And same thing with the Chargers here.
Well, first things first is somehow find a miracle pill to make Joe Burrow healthy. He's still bothered by that calf issue, and I feel like that's really kind of hindering, his ability to throw the football. And we're noticing some very uncharacteristic, throws from Joe Burrow, even some decision making. I'm not going to say it's completely his fault, but we've seen this offense kind of spit and sputter so far in the first couple of weeks. I don't know what the remedy is right now. I think basically Burrow should have rested. They should have rested him, all throughout the offseason. And even if they had to miss week one, have him miss week one. It's only week one to get him healthy, to bring him back. They kind of pushed him. I'm not going to say they pushed him, but I know he wanted to play, but the organization was also like, hey, we can play him. If you're good to go, we're going to play you. He said, yeah. So I think he rushed that injury a little too soon. It's affecting him now, and now it looks like he'll be out for even more time. So we don't know where Cincinnati's heading. All I know is that they could struggle in the quarterback department, especially if he's got to miss any kind of length of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you do see it's a little different, but you did also notice the injury here in week one really affected him, and then now after this past game, they really come out and it says, yeah, this thing's been bothering me. I got to get it done, but I still think they could be effective in the running game, and they're just not getting the running backs enough play here, getting Joe Mixon enough touches here to get it going here. I think even in the first game, he had, 12 attempts maybe?
Yeah. I mean, here's the big deal is it's all game related. When you start to fall behind, you can't run as much as you want to. You got to kind of go away from that and try to catch up. And then the same thing's happening in week two is where Yeah, they're not going to go to the running game that much anymore because they're still down. They're still, they still got to catch up. So um, that's what dictates and changes your game plan is, where your status is in any situation of a game. So if you're down by 2 scores, yeah, you're going to be pressured to throw the ball a lot more. You're not going to be able to kind of mix in that run and keep it balanced as much as you'd like to. So unfortunately, the Bengals have been, falling behind and trying to play catch up these past couple of weeks. And until that changes, we're not going to see a whole lot of Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, trying to come bounce back from that. But yeah, slow start. Chargers again, I think just injuries too on top of it a little bit here, but I think they'll still be okay. I mean, looking at their schedule, they've got some tough games here, but they've been that team though that's been expected to do a lot of things. They got the young quarterback here,
They can't do it.
but they just can't get it done.
No, and I think the same story is showing again this season for them. Me personally, I thought this was going to be the year that Chargers not only were healthy again with Bosa back and J.C. Jackson and all these big time players all back healthy again. I felt like this will be the year where the Chargers are going to take a step up. They're going to compete with the Chiefs. They're going to try to win this division. And I'm sorry, after 2 weeks of football, even though they're pretty healthy, they look even worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Joe. All right. So who knows? We'll see. They got some tough games moving forward here. A couple of these 0-2 teams are going to be facing each other this week. So Joe,
someone's got to win, right?
Someone's got to win. Absolutely. So let's get right to it. Let's get to our picks competition here. Right now, the records, I'll read them off to you. Right now, you're still leading 22 wins and 10 losses. I have 19 wins and 13 losses, so you got the lead on me still here. But a tough couple of matchups last week, but I bounced back a little bit here, doing well, and you're consistently doing well there too. And Nathaniel's right there with us too, so he's doing great. Let's see if his predictions, pan out too as well. So then again, we promised him he can get on the show with us too if he does well with some of these predictions. So far his Minnesota one, I think, is spot on so far. But all right, so Thursday night here, we've got the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. I think that the NFL really planned on this being a bigger game than what it is now we're looking at, because the Giants don't look very good. Again, it wasn't until that second half, and I don't expect we're going to see a Giants team like we saw in that second half in this game. Again, Andrew Thomas with the hamstring injury, still not playing. Saquon Barkley goes down with a sprained ankle in that game, and they're going to rest him this week too. So there's, your main guy too. Daniel Jones did really well. He was your X factor, but Saquon, if it wasn't for some of those hard runs that he had in that game, Giants don't bounce back in that game either, or the threat, because every time they did play action with Saquon, that defense followed Saquon. And that set up that passing game absolutely for them. But here against that San Francisco 49ers team and that defense, man, I feel bad again. It's going to be rough to watch.
Yeah, the only thing you could really hope for as a Giants fan is to come out of that game healthy, because this is going to be a very physical and a very trying type of game. It's going to be a battle. The Niners, they're bringing everything. Their defense is stellar. Their offense is stellar. Even though, I will say this, what kind of gives the Giants at least a chance to upset is Brock Purdy isn't 100% himself. We've seen him miss some throws, especially deep bombs that he normally would be consistent in hitting, 50% at least. Like he should be hitting those spots. Guys like Brandon Ayuk getting open down the field, Deebo Samuel getting open down the field. He's missing them for some reason. Don't know if it has anything to do with his previous injury, but he's not looking as consistent as we thought he was going to be. So that's kind of like a little bit of to shed a little bit of light on that matchup. But I got to go 49ers. Like, they're such a dominating team, and I fully expect them to come away with a win.
All right. Mike Tackett says he's got his question here. Commanders 2-0, or what's the bigger surprise? Commanders 2-0 or Bengals 0-2?
I would say Bengals 0-2,
Mhm.
to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, we knew that Washington was in the position of rebuilding. We knew that they were going to give Sam Howell the shot to be the true starter there. So we knew that they had some piece and everything, but they also still need to upgrade, especially on the offensive line. For the Bengals, honestly, like I thought at the very worst they'd be 1-1, but never 0-2.
It's tough because again, that Cleveland game is always tough with them. You know, the division rival, and then same thing, two back-to-back division rivals here with the Baltimore Ravens too as well. So it's a tough matchup for these guys.
Gotta win your
Right away.
division if you wanna go to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. But Washington again, it's tough. I think it's not. It's tough for a surprise here because both these teams, you know, Cleveland had it, or Cincinnati had it tough. Like I said, you got Cleveland, a better defense here. That offense, if they keep clicking, and then the Baltimore Ravens back to back. But then the Washington Commanders here, you've got, an Arizona team which wasn't expected to do a whole lot this year,
No.
anyways. And the Broncos here, which I thought dead ringer was going to come back with something, especially with a Sean Payton team, and to be embarrassed by the Washington Commanders. That's pretty rough. So, but I'm not exactly surprised though either because I think the Denver Broncos have kind of been one of those teams that almost like what my Giants would be, or like they used to be at least. They've kind of played down to some of these teams that are we'd say not as good, I guess, on paper. You look at them and they kind of play down to it, and they come up with a lame duck loss like this. They did it a lot last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised with the Broncos. I
Mm-hmm.
thought they would be better, but I didn't think they would be so much better to the point where they were going to
Yeah,
even
make
push for the
great
division.
heights. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Sean
Nathaniel
Payton,
says
great.
49ers in this one, by the way. Sorry.
Sean Payton, greatest coach. He's one of the greatest coaches. Like he's very brilliant offensively and whatnot. But I, all the smarts in the world, it seems like cannot fix this Broncos offense with
Mhm.
Russell Wilson and his struggles. And it's basically the same team. He just inherited the same team.
Yeah.
Despite the draft picks they got, he just inherited the same guys, and he's trying to make something out of nothing.
Well, yeah, I think if they continue losing ways, I think Sean Payton automatically, dude, if you didn't come out in the public and media and start trashing Nathaniel or Nathaniel Hackett, um, it's going to look bad because if he's saying how I'm doing the direct opposite of what this guy did, they didn't know what they were doing, and you guys suck this year. That just looks poorly upon you. Said, hey, you didn't do much better either, buddy. You know what I mean? So
No, didn't do any better. Like
yeah,
really, that's what's happening. Is like you just said, for him to trash Nathaniel Hackett, and I don't notice
maybe
any
it's a little
real
karma.
improvement.
Yeah.
I don't notice any real improvement.
Yep.
So you you can't freaking talk the trash that you want to talk and then not have anything to back it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Joe, we're going to Sunday's games here. Starting off at 1 o'clock, we've got Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. Man, it doesn't get any better for the Titans. Titans have had some tough games here too, but same thing with Cleveland. Cleveland's been in some tough games. Knock them, drag them out. Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
edged out a loss. They're down a little bit too last game for a little while, and
Right.
they came back. And really fought hard, and that defense has played really well for them. But Cleveland now at home without, Nick Chubb is a bigger difference, but Kareem Hunt get him acclimated pretty quickly. How do you see them doing this week?
Honestly, like without Chubb, that offense is going to be different. I know Kareem Hunt's going to get some snaps, so and that could be a very fluid situation. There is how comfortable is Kareem Hunt when he comes in? Does he know enough of the playbook where he could be even more of a factor? That's going to be something that we got to evaluate as we get there. But um, again, when you lose a guy like Nick Chubb, it's going to change the offense for sure. They're going to try to run the ball, with Ford. They're going to use Hunt, and I think they're going to go with the hot hand at the end of the day, who's getting more productivity. But Deshaun Watson got to clean things up, in this matchup. He can't afford to keep missing some weapons. He can't afford to hold on to the football too long. He's got to step up in this game to move forward. So I love Cleveland Browns defense. They've kind of taken a big step forward, this season especially, and you see it in the first 2 weeks of how good they actually are. For Tennessee's one of the better rush defenses out there. So it's going to be an interesting, checkers match here. So I'm going to look forward. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going with Cleveland. Tennessee, I think they're going to give them one hell of a game. I think this will be very close all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one too as well. Again, a lot of these guys that got injured in the last game are coming back. They've practiced at full, limited practice for Amari Cooper, so that's a little bit of a factor here too. But then playing at home and the way that defense, the number 2 ranked defense in the NFL, I think they're going to do well here against the Tennessee Titans. But the Tennessee Titans, again, going to keep it close. They don't back down, and that's part of their head coach too as well. The Atlanta Falcons here and the Detroit Lions. Detroit let me down last week, Joe. I thought they were going to really show, that what they can do. They're a changed team, but maybe it's just that little bit of a letdown after that first game. It was so tough there with the Bills and taking them down. It was too much for them, Joe.
Yeah, it was big. It was big. And good for Detroit. They're on the path. They're on the path. They're close to being one of those teams that can compete against the elite. And I look forward to see what they can do as the season goes on. I am curious though with the return of Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be coming back soon. I think 2 weeks from now he'll be due to come back. Then I want to kind of really see where this offense can go. Mm-hmm. I think it'll open up a lot of things and make it a little bit more explosive. What's the other team that we got?
Atlanta Falcons here.
And who's
Falcons.
home?
Their home is Detroit.
Is that Detroit?
Yep.
Atlanta Falcons. All I can say about Atlanta is I like what I kind of call this team to be a dark horse in the division there. And they've kind of so far have done what I thought they were going to do. Didn't expect them to be 2-0 right now. But I thought like they're going to surprise some people, and they can only go as far as Desmond Ridder can take them. We've seen him, like you mentioned, Jim, last week. He had a little bit of struggles, turned the ball over, sometimes not making the right decision. We kind of expected it from him. He's the only one that's kind of holding them back on the offensive side. So I really like what Atlanta's doing, especially defensively. I think I'm going to continue with the Atlanta run here and pick the Falcons in this week.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to go on the opposite side. I'm going to go with Detroit. They bounce back here. They play well at home. And the fact that, yes, the Atlanta Falcons are 2-0, and it was a rough start, and that defense has kept them in tight games here. But to live and die by the run, I mean, yes, Bijan Robinson's looked good too, and Algier, doing some plays too, but I think Detroit just offensively, again, they're still ranked top 10, third in rushing even too right now too, even despite with an injury from David Montgomery. I think they have enough to get it done here with that defense. They can really get at a Desmond Ridder and create turnovers. I think that's what could be the factor in this game is turnovers, and I think just that Ritter's going to have more than Goff is. But let me tell you, I think Goff will turn the ball over too as well. I just think they're going to win the turnover battle. All right, next up we've got the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. Joe, I don't even know what to think about the Green Bay Packers even right now. They stayed in the game last week, came out firing again. I'm just like, man, what the hell is up with this? Like, maybe I was wrong. I'm not sure. By the way, Nathaniel, I think it was who's it in the comments? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Nathaniel. He says he's got the Titans in the second game. By the way, I know we're on a little bit of a delay too, so let's see what he goes with Atlanta. But New Orleans Saints and Green Bay, it's tough because I tell you, looking at Green Bay right now, I think they're going to give the Saints a run for their money because the Saints, I think they're really missing that Alvin Kamara type of factor here because that offense sometimes too with me seems like they're struggling at times to get some plays here and that defense, relying on that defense a lot here sometimes, Joe. I mean, this past weekend on Monday, it was kind of rough here at times for them.
Yeah, well, it was a division rival. I mean, anytime we see these games It doesn't matter where each team is at in terms of status.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers, they have a rookie quarterback. They have a lot of young pieces. They're going to compete the hell against the Saints. Like, they showed that. And they weren't going to, step in the ring, so to speak, and be like, oh, and we're under the lights. The moment's too big for us,
Right.
They kind of proved that they can compete for sure. We expected the Saints kind of pretty much to kind of do what they want, and they couldn't. That defense played out of their minds, Monday night against the Saints. So kudos to the Panthers. But I think that was kind of just a thing where both teams knew each other so well, even though Derek Carr is new to the team and what have you. Saw some nice things in the passing game, but also uh, the running game. Where is it? Where is the running game for the Saints? I don't see it. I just don't think they have the right back there without having Alvin Kamara, without having him there. You're noticing a big loss, much like when Dalvin Cook was supposed to be in Minnesota. It's a big change. When you don't have all your weapons at your disposal, it changes the way you call games. So I think you saw that a lot the first couple of games with the Saints. And you're right, the defense does kind of hold them in games and what have you. But I think it's going to continue. I think the Saints are still going to kind of grind. They're going to rely. They're going to have to rely on that Saints defense like they always do. And we'll see what they can do this week in terms of offense. But I just feel like the Saints has a little bit more weaponry than they'll be able to cover. I'm going to go with the Saints.
All right, yeah. I think Green Bay at home is going to come out firing here. But again, I think the Saints play the long game. And again, I still believe in them. I still believe in what they can do. And I don't think it's Derek Carr's fault either, too. I know some people might even want to quick to jump on it, especially even
They're already
Raiders
blaming him.
fans, too, as well. Like, oh, yeah, he sucked for us, too, and blah, blah, blah. But some of the moves he had to do to try and get out of even the pocket collapsing and stuff, it's not all on him and things. And some of the tip passes again and things like that, that's not his fault turning into turnovers, which had happened in the game. So clean it up. You made it through some easier competition. Green Bay, like I said, I think is going to come out strong. They're going to come out fire, especially if they get the first possession. They're going to score early, but then I think New Orleans is in for the long game, and they're going to get it. Denver and Miami, Joe, again, we're going to get cut off, I think, in a minute here from Zoom. So in a minute, can you give me your Denver and Miami?
Miami's home, right?
Miami's at home, yes.
A real simple. Miami Dolphins are going to beat Denver. Like, nobody's really been able to slow down this Miami offense thus far. And I feel like with Denver's struggles as of late, even to put points on the board, it's going to be a problem. The Dolphins have a really good defense, too. We kind of talk about the offense all the time, but the defense is also just as good. So I look for the Dolphins to kind of take over, and I feel like they'll win pretty convincingly.
All right, I agree with you on that one. Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. Joe, you want to touch on that one quick? I think you still have 30 seconds.
Chargers and Vikes.
2 teams right there, 0-2 teams. So one's got to come out with a victory.
Who's home?
Minnesota.
Minnesota's home. I'm not thrilled with the Chargers at all right now. I thought they would be more explosive on offense.
Oh, there we go. And we lost Joe, so we're going to try and get him back here. Let's see if I can get this back going now. Man, this sucks when I have to do this, man. This is ridiculous. Where the heck is the live feed? I don't see the live feed, but Joe, we'll get you back in a second here. Let's get the meeting going. All right. All right, we're back here. And, sorry, we lost Joe here again, but we're going to get him started here in just a second. But yeah, Miami, we went with Miami in the last one, but the Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings here. The Chargers, again, just one of those teams that we thought could maybe take that step forward, but in the long run, hasn't been able to get it done. And Minnesota, they're on that cusp. You know, people are talking about Minnesota's got to go and maybe make that trade because Kirk Cousins on his last year, you kind of know what he is, hasn't been able to get you to where you wanted to get to. So you feel you have to trade him before the trade-in deadline this year to get something, because you don't want to just let them walk at the end of the season here without anything. And the Jets pop right up because, yes, they were kind of promised a championship here, and they didn't get it. They got robbed early with Aaron Rodgers going down, but now they want to try and make that stand. If they go 1-3, like I think it was Nathaniel McWhort might have said, or somebody early on, I think it was Brandon Matthew. They go 1-3. Do they go and make that trade? If Minnesota does lose this game, then that could potentially be that shot, because now you're 0-3, and then you're technically out of the playoffs. So if you're going to be 0-3 here, looking at this division the way it is, they still can fight back in this division, but I think they might want to pull the trigger and go and get that Kirk Cousins trade done if they really feel like that's not their guy moving forward, and they want to just move on after the whole deal is said and done. So this could be that pivotal game then, that if they do decide to make that decision, they could do that. Joe, I'm sorry I lost you right in the middle of your take. And it was tough trying to get this together and mix back together, but we are back. I was just bringing up the fact that Minnesota and the Chargers here, if Minnesota loses this game, is that a conversation now that they figure? Because again, we've looked at the different stats that say that if you're 0-3 in the beginning of the season, the likelihood of you making the playoffs is slim to none. Do they pull the trigger on that Kirk Cousins trade if they are brought to the, if the Jets come to him and make a few phone calls and say, hey, what do you want for this in case we do this again? But like you said, it's highly unlikely, but if they're looking at, they might not make the playoffs, it's an option. But in this division though, there isn't a real true team really taken off with this division, they still have a shot, even still at 0-3, I think.
They still have a shot 0-3 because they're also in the NFC. The AFC seems to be like, a ton of competition there, and that's why everybody's kind of fighting for position. In the NFC, they're still doing the same thing. However, we've seen teams that had losing records make it in the NFC to the playoffs for a wild card or something like that, of that nature. So I wouldn't say Minnesota's out of it, even at 0-3. I still think they could make a push, or even just a late push to kind of maybe become a wild card factor. But I don't think they'll pull the trigger for Kirk Cousins, even if they're 0-3. I don't think Minnesota's going to want to give up that early. I think they're going to keep pushing on. They know that they have a franchise quarterback. I just don't think that's going to happen unless somehow, some way, the Jets are like, well, screw draft picks. We're going to take the LA Rams way out of things, and we're going to just throw draft picks to get another player and just forfeit the future. I just kind of don't see that happening. I think Minnesota is still going to be comfortable keeping Kirk.
All right, so what do you think now in this as far as the game? Sorry.
So as I was saying, I'm not 100% confident in the Chargers offense like I thought it would be at this point. Same thing with the defense. With all the players that they have, I can't believe that they're not better than what they are. I can't believe that they're 0-2. I can't believe that they're not at least 500. So I don't know if is it coaching at this point? Is it the play calling defensively and offensively? Not really sure right now. So for the Chargers struggling still, the Vikings, they're 0-2, but I feel like the Vikings have been way more competitive in their games. So I'm actually kind of impressed by the Vikings defense and how they're better suited right now than the Chargers defense that has more weapons. So maybe it is in the coaching. Who knows? But Minnesota, they play really tough at home. I like Kirk Cousins. They got Cam Akers in this week. He's not going to be able to start, but he'll definitely get in the game. So it'll be kind of refreshing to see him in a new uniform, and maybe that's all he needed is a new environment. But I'm going to go, actually, surprisingly, I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one.
Yeah, it's tough because, again, Chargers have looked pretty good. They just kind of let some off the hook. Garrett Bradbury still did not practice. He's out. And Christian Darrisaw still limited in practice. And also Marcus Davenport limited. They've been without these guys in the past.
Yeah, last week. Last week they didn't have him.
And playing pretty decent. And like I was saying earlier too about Minnesota is that you see how important Justin Jefferson is to that team. And the fact that he was even still able to get open, and even when he wasn't, he just coming down with some of these catches and the concentration where the ball was just threaded and needled right in between a couple of defenders, and just kept the focus and made the catch still. Phenomenal. We got to see Addison make some plays too. So it's going to be a tough game. I think the Chargers going to put it out there and keep it close here too. But I think this is going to be a deciding factor maybe with this coaching staff with the Chargers. I mean, they made the switch, and it was a lateral move from Joe Lombardi. He moves on, but he goes to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else. They got Kellen Moore in here, but overall, the head coach hasn't been able to get it done. When again, they're supposed to make the playoffs multiple times or be a better team, hasn't gotten them where they need to go to. When do you pull the trigger? And if they start out to a slow start this year, that could be something, a headline that pops up as well. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings at home as well with this one. All right. Now,
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny though? How that works is like the finger pointing game.
Yeah.
Head coach and the team, they're not as successful as they thought they would be, or the owner of the team thought they should be better, and they're like, oh no, it's Tom's fault. Tom's the offensive coordinator. He's the reason why we can't score points. It's not me. It's him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the game that they played. And now here they are looking just as bad, or maybe worse.
Yep. Yeah, it happens. And that's the thing. That gives something to some of those teams that have longevity that would constantly get there or get to the playoffs and be a one and done, and keep their coach for a while. And some franchises are good with that. You know what I mean? And sometimes that works out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They barely switched, quarterback. You still have Mike Tomlin. They haven't won a Super Bowl in years. But staying with it, still relevant, the team. And unless you look at this season now, maybe not so much. But yeah, traditionally, yeah, So you see how some teams really make the switch based on what media is even going after and what even fans' reaction possibly to, or what their expectations are for the franchise moving forward. Let's move on to the Jets and the New England Patriots. This is going to be a close game. I think this can be a defensive game too as well. We've seen the Patriots keep it close with a bunch of different things. Now Belichick's got to be looking at this one and saying, "Oh, I don't have to game plan for Aaron Rodgers? Nice.
That's right.
Here we go. Let's take out their first weapon. Oh, that's going to be Garrett Wilson. And boom, boom. Okay, now what else they got? Okay, so I think Jets, they got to try and play the tough game here. They really got to run the ball effectively in this game to keep it close. They need to keep the New England Patriots, I want to say, kind of tire out that defense a little bit. If you get a running game going, you're going to tire out that defense and keep them on the field a little bit, and not have Bill Belichick's offense kind of dink it and dunk it and get at you in this one. I know that Jets defense is going to be tough against this offense too, so I don't expect New England Patriots offense to light up the boards either, because on their end, what receivers doing anything? I mean, hello, somebody raise their hand, and who's going to be the number one? We don't know, because Kendrick Bourne, getting a few, here and there. Hunter Henry seems like getting a lot more targets, but still comes up short in the big moments, cannot bring it in. So this team is just struggling to find that. If they had a number one, they'd be in a better position, because I don't think they're in this spot because of anything that Mac Jones has done, or even their running game. I think has been still pretty well with Ramondre. But it's going to be a tough game, defensive game, but just that Zach Wilson's there, I think that's tougher, and I'm going to go with the Patriots on this one.
Well, Jim, they do have a number one, and he just got back last week. Devontae Parker kind of did extremely well last week, was definitely the go-to guy, and you saw, the chain of command, once Parker got on the field, where did he go with the ball? He went to Devontae. Kendrick Bourne, he's a good receiver, not taking any credit away from him, but move aside, young buck, because Devontae's here. So you saw this offense kind of transform last week, and you mentioned Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's kind of been the one bright spot of this offense.
Yeah.
Mac Jones and him have tremendous chemistry together, and real quick, little tidbit in fantasy. Hunter Henry is actually the second ranked tight end in fantasy right now. So if he's available in your leagues, go snatch him up right now, even if he's a backup. But overall, the Patriots have been a very competitive team, even without Parker. And I love the defense that they already have. I think that they're going to create a lot of pressure with that defense, and then it's going to allow the Patriots offense to kind of get back on track, see what's working. It doesn't have to be right away they score, but they're going to kind of milk the clock. They're going to work their way down the field and score at the end. I just kind of see this game with the Jets. Like I noticed last week, I was a little disappointed with the lack of adjustments on the defensive side. And I hope that doesn't trickle into this week because you need to have, you need to have everything, on point this week against Bill Belichick and his staff. The Jets defense, as good as it is, I'm seeing some holes in there. If they play more zone like they did against the Cowboys,
that plays right into the Patriots game.
I think the Patriots are going to kind of eat them alive on offense that way. Still think that the Jets defense is going to create a lot of pressure and whatnot, but it's going to be who limits the most mistakes, right? It's going to be can Zach Wilson for the Jets limit the mistakes from the past week? Can he come into this week and have a cleaner game? That could give the Jets a really good chance to win. But then again, I know it's still a little bit rocky there for Zach Wilson. So I'm going to go with the guy that isn't as rocky and Mac Jones and the Patriots to win this game.
All right, here we go. Nathaniel says he's got the Jets in this one, and he had Minnesota in the last one. Buffalo Bills and Washington Commanders here. This is where I think the Commanders' 2-0 season and undefeated season comes to an end. Even though Buffalo, again, started out a little slower, I think, last week, but then turned it on and got things done here. Needed to pull out that
victory. They played the Raiders.
Yes, yeah, I know.
They played the Raiders.
Too. Yeah. So
no competition there. They played the Raiders defense.
Yep.
They tripped. I haven't seen it in a while, but Max Crosby actually got triple teamed in that game. When your one defender's getting triple teamed because of how good he is, but nobody else is making plays, that's a big issue. So Bills. We called it last week. That was going to be a pick 'em. That was easy pick 'em. You pick the Bills, you're going to win.
Yep, absolutely. So now we got Buffalo going into Washington. What do you got in this one, Joe?
I got Sam Howell throwing for 4 touchdowns and having negative 20 yards rushing. That's what I got. No, I think Washington, they're going to be competitive. These are two teams that don't normally play each other. So I expect both teams to try to feel each other out to see what each one's about. And that could take a while in some of these games. So that might give both teams a chance to kind of keep this close. So for Washington, well, I don't know if they're going to have Logan Thomas. He has a concussion. He might miss the game. I don't know for how long. But they've managed to do a lot of good things with the weapons that they have. The only question, and we've said it before, is their offensive line is a little weak. So that's got to be a concern. And defensively, now that they got Chase Young back in the lineup, that defensive line looked pretty nasty last week. A lot of pressure they were developing, and the defense fed off of that. Who's home in this one? Washington?
Washington, yes.
And what's the other team again?
The Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills. Well, you got the Bills. They got their win to get back on track against the Raiders. I think they're going to pretty much do the same thing. I love the Bills defense, especially Ed Oliver up front, how much pressure he's able to create. And Stephon Diggs is going to definitely have a good week this week. So I think the Bills going to kind of, this is like yet another game where they can kind of boost morale and they'll come away with the win. Not saying they're going to blow them out, but they're going to come away with the win, and then they'll kind of be in better morale that way. I got the Bills.
And what's funny, it was one thing I've noticed too with this offense is, they added and they drafted Dalton Kincaid, and how about him being a bigger factor, a bigger go-to guy than Dawson Knox? It's almost Dawson Knox is kind of going off to the wayside here, and Kincaid been that receiving threat in the tight end position.
Well, I mean, with Dalton Kincaid, that's all he is a receiver, and Dawson Knox is kind of built in a similar way. I feel like it's just been a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
You just tend to see Dalton Kincaid more in the red zone. So I still think both guys are still factors in that offense. But man, Dalton Kincaid took he took a really good hit in the end zone this past week by Marcus Epps for sure.
Yeah.
And he was a little bit slow to get up, so he should be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, like, they're going to mix it up for sure.
Yep. All right. Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jags. Jacksonville, for me, again, I think I don't think they're the powerhouse or something that they were maybe coming like from out of nowhere last year. But they're getting a slow start, and I think they're coming around here. I think they kind of got robbed a little bit last week with that Chiefs game here because of the non-call. Excuse me. And now they're at home against a Houston team who, again, is building. Plays tough, but they're not going to get it done here. I like the Jacksonville Jaguars here at home.
Yeah, Jaguars played good last week against the Chiefs. They really did. And honestly, they could have easily pulled that win off. They were right there. So when you're competing with the Super Bowl champs, I feel like you're still in a good place. Jaguars are going to handle business this week, and it's not like I'm trying to brush off the Texans, but we all know what they are. They're a rebuilding team. They have a young quarterback. They're still developing. Stroud and company, they've done well, actually. Stroud looks really good, especially for a rookie, being able to throw to guys like Nico Collins, Robert Woods, just kind of slinging the ball and letting it go. So I still think that they'll maybe in the first half they'll kind of keep it close, but then after that, I just lost my train of thought.
The Jacksonville Jaguars? You're thinking that they're going to pull it out?
The Jaguars are going to end up, running away with that game.
All right, here Nathaniel says he's got the Bills, and he just picked up Hunter Henry on fantasy. So
you're welcome.
There you go. You're welcome. So there you go. So we'll see what happens if that benefits him here. All right,
how is he available? Hold on, Nathaniel. How is he available?
That league, dude. I don't know. He said there's a bunch of dudes that don't know what they're doing. If that's the league that he runs,
Nathaniel, do you have all your little cousins in that league, and you're just taking advantage of them?
Yeah. Who knows, baby? Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens here. All right, Colts. They had lost Richardson for a little bit there. Looks like he's going to play this week, though, so that's good for them. Baltimore, even though injuries like that they had and stuff, pulled out a victory here in a tough game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And, again, luckily, though, he had, Mark Andrews, though. Again, Mark Andrews is that go-to guy for him and got him some big plays for him when he needed it and needed to get done. But one thing I did see in that game, and unfortunately you don't have an Odell Beckham Jr. already, just like that. But Lamar Jackson throwing the ball deep and getting it to somebody. So he is capable at times of making some of those plays. So that's good for them going forward. This could be a tough game for Indianapolis Colts. I like the Baltimore Ravens here at home.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that last week when Richardson left the game, Gardner Minshew stepped in. All of a sudden, we said this was the right move. Start Minshew, develop Richardson behind him, and then maybe play him next year. But Minshew coming in, that offense looked completely different. It was way better run. It was quicker. It seemed faster, more precise. And Minshew did a really good job when he stepped in. So that's just one thing. But, they like Richardson. They're going to keep him in there and whatnot. So I just think this is going to be a bad day for Richardson and company. The Baltimore Ravens defense is going to be super stellar. They're going to be right after it. They're going to create a lot of pressure on them. They're going to try to confuse them with various different styles of blitzing and stunts. I look forward to this game. I feel like this is one of those interesting games because we're all expecting the Ravens to kind of wash out the Colts, but something tells me this Colts team doesn't give up too easily. So I still got the Ravens to win in the end. but I feel like it's going to be an interesting game.
I hope so. I don't want it to be a wash here. Nathaniel's got the Jags in the last game. Next, we got the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be a tough game, I think, for me. Again, you want to say Seattle just at home, and hopefully now they're turning forward here and making progress here and turning the season around a little bit. But Carolina, after that game, that defense, they really played tough here. And again, maybe it was just because of the divisional rival, but they played it tough here, you know. And but Seattle, that was one of the games too. I think in that last scoring play, I think there was a couple suspect things here that didn't get called on that against Seattle, and they still got the touchdown to go ahead to win the game. But Seattle, I think because they're here at home, I like the weapons that they have still. I think they are turning the corner a little bit here. Carolina's still going to play them tough. This is going to be a tough game, and don't be surprised if Carolina does win here, but I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks in this one.
Yeah, I like Seattle at home against the Panthers. Panthers got to travel, and this is a tough place to play for any quarterback. And now you have a rookie quarterback coming into this environment. Going to be extremely hard to hear the plays and whatnot. You know, even to audible, going to be extremely difficult to do so. So the Seahawks, they're looking to get back on track. You know, despite the injuries that they have on the offensive line, they were able to punch it in with Kenneth Walker III last week, and they looked pretty good, actually. They looked a lot better than week one, and the defense is definitely healthier, so I got Seattle at home.
All right, Nathaniel said the bad thing is he lost last week. Crazy. What was the other team, man? Because he had a super team. Didn't he?
Yeah, he had a stellar team, like an all-star team.
How did Justin Jefferson do, though? I don't think he even got in the end zone last week, did he? I mean, the touchdowns that they got was Addison, and I want to say,
was it Osborne?
Or maybe Osborne. You know, Osborne too, man. That's a game decider too, because it's not like Minnesota's terrible. It's not Kirk Cousins either. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he had the one turnover to fumble, but
yeah,
a receiver not catching the ball in pivotal moments changes everything. Because there was two that KJ Osborne had that were first downs. That even in that last drive, even too, that helped win the game for them, for Minnesota, dropped, you know, things like that. And that's it. Right. It's all said and done. You know what I mean? And those key moments, that changes everything. You know, that's the difference between a win and a loss. So, all right, next we've got the Chicago Bears and the Kansas City Chiefs. Bears with a new defensive coordinator, now we know, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, maybe got it turned around here. You know, again, come back, and they've got, you know, Chris Jones. He's making an impact instantly, you know, with that game last week. And you know,
I'll tell you right now,
the fact that he's got a pitch count for them, but he's going to get more involved too as well for them.
I gotta say this about Chris Jones is if Chris Jones wasn't there last week, the Jaguars win that game. He created so much, you know, disruption in the backfield and pressure and plays that he kind of tipped the scale, you know, towards the Chiefs last week.
Yeah. Oh, so this is what. All right, we got Nathaniel's on the comments here. Here he goes. He's got the Seahawks and the Ravens, but he says, so what was a Cole Kmet and David Njoku combo now became a George Kittle and Hunter Henry duo. But yeah,
really?
But he even had Cole Kmet out there and David Njoku. Yeah, those guys have been kind of not doing well for you. You know what I mean? Those guys, Njoku's a big letdown. Cole Kmet, yeah, I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of him. You know, he's like more of a sleeper pick. He could have did something positive.
But that's the crazy thing about those two, that they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? We expected them to be big parts of their offense.
Yep. And George Kittle and Hunter Henry, that's a good duo to have right there. You know, for tight ends. That's why, even though we need tight ends.
How did Nathaniel Nathaniel, did you have Kittle already, or you just picked him up?
I don't know. If you just picked him up, that's just nuts. And if somebody even traded him away, whatever, they're even crazier too. They're smoking some serious shit, you know, over there.
Nathaniel, it's not a league just with you in it, right?
Right.
Just got to make sure.
Like every team, he's like, yeah, this dumb guy. It's my alter ego. Just traded this guy. His name's McLovin, not McWhort. You know, he's terrible. You know,
that league is insane. Yeah, that's wow.
It is pretty crazy. But hey, fantasy is as so goes fantasy, Joe. We know. Jefferson did well, but AJ Brown and the Jets running backs did not. So that's what you have there. So
yep.
It's tough.
Gotcha.
Week to week, fantasy is up and down, man. That's why I don't play anymore. I don't need the extra emotional stress. You know what I'm saying? All right, so Kansas City at home against Chicago. I think Chicago is not going to do enough for this team here. They ain't got it. I got the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it's the Bears have been struggling in offense and even defense. So
if they come up with this win, I guess that's going to be the upset of the week, right? At least for me.
Despite the additions that they've been able to make, they're just not getting. It's not coming all together like they thought. So Chiefs, they're also not up to par like they normally are. They're usually like way more dominant on offense and defense. They just do what they have to do to get by. So, I think the Chiefs are yet another win for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're playing yet another opponent that's a little weaker.
Yeah, and I think you got to see Kelsey. He was ready to play, but he was still sore from that knee injury and stuff still last week. Hopefully he gets a little healthier for this next game, or at least dealing with the pain a little better. He did fairly well, but again, in Keppel, they hit him hard. They really were going after him where he had a few drops.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he got blasted.
Yeah, absolutely. So all right, next we've got the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. Joe, Cardinals, they played tough. Dobbs looked like a master here with that Giants defense. But you know what? I think, Dable said something to the defensive coordinator, too, as well, Wink Martindale, because the past two games, too, they were playing a lot of zone. And, again, I don't know why, the Giants think this is a great idea either, because those teams are, especially the Cowboys, just picking you apart. Those types of offenses just play well right into that, and you weren't getting pressure. The second half, he pressured all over the place, cover zero, whatever, and it was getting done, and the pressure was making a difference. When Dobbs was pressured, it made a difference. Throwing the ball, errant passes away or down or whatever, it made a difference, and hopefully they can do that again this week here for the Giants, but it brought Dobbs back down to earth. Arizona, again, I think they are who we thought they were. I think defense is playing really well. That young rookie they have here, the defensive line is really nice. It's hard to pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try and butcher it right now. But Dallas, they're a tough game to be a team to be reckoned with even right now too as well. Tough defense. So I feel bad for Arizona here on this one. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to run away with this one.
Yeah, the Cardinals' offensive line is already extremely weak. They're kind of like Washington's offensive line. A lot of holes, but they never really upgraded there. And to be honest, like this is the Cardinals are in for a rude awakening this week, just say the least. The Dallas Cowboys are definitely going to. I feel like they're going to dominate the Cardinals, and why wouldn't they? So yeah, I got the Cowboys against the Cardinals.
All right, here we've got Stephen Bogucki is in the house with us tonight. He says,
"What up, Stephen?"
He says the Lions beat the Chiefs first week, and I took the Lions to win it. That was a great bet. And then he says, I hope the Giants win this Thursday night game too as well. I hope so too, but it's the cards are against us. He goes, and then he says, I think my Jets will actually beat the Patriots in their home field advantage. Who knows? They beat the Bills with Zach Wilson and stuff, so you never know. But it all depends, what happens. Again, I think it's got to be a game of turnovers. Whoever has the most turnovers ends up losing the game, or defensive, takeaways. We could see the defensive players, again, scoring more offense, getting more touchdowns than the offenses maybe in this one.
It's going to come down to Zach Wilson, really. That's really going to be the deciding factor for the Jets, how well he plays. Mm-hmm. Does he turn the ball over? Does he make poor mistakes? You know what I mean? That's really what it's going to come down to. I still feel like the Jets defense is going to play, tough like they always do.
Yep.
But hopefully we see a little bit more man coverage this week than, last week. I feel like that's going to be a big difference for them.
Yep. And Nathaniel says, he goes, I just picked him up, and it's a 9-man league. Are you kidding me right now? He just picked up George Kittle off of the freaking free agent pool in a 9-man league.
You kidding me? That's just not right.
Wow, dude.
Who's playing in that league?
Winners
I want
don't
names.
use drugs.
Like,
I want names.
Dude, yeah. Like, what the hell's going on here, dude?
I need to call everybody. Give me their number.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so like what are we on?
We are now on Sunday night's game, Pittsburgh and Vegas. Pittsburgh played really well. Again, offense just sputtering. They can't protect Kenny Pickett. I don't think it's all his fault. He's just getting hammered. And It's tough. It seems like Pickens is the only one that can get open for them too as well. So it's tough on offense for Pittsburgh. But what looks really well? I know they talked who was it last week that talked about Najee Harris moving on because Warren looked really well for them last night or on Monday night. Runs hard. I mean, he's looks really good for him. If they can, go back and forth between those running backs, they might have something there and keep it easier for Kenny Pickett so he doesn't have to do a whole lot and then go off of some play action with those guys. But Warren ran really hard here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is when you're sitting on the sidelines chomping at the bit to get in, you finally get your shot to get in there. You're gonna let all the energy out you can in one shot. Like that dude was running not only just hard, but he was running with reckless abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was he went out there and was like, you know what? I got my shot. I'm going to give everything I have on every single run that I do. And it showed on the football field. Najee Harris, he relies more on the offensive line to create holes. And the offensive line has struggled to do that. And that's why Harris has struggled as well. So Warren, nice change of pace type of back. A guy that he's very physical, especially for his stature, and has some speed to go with it. So Steelers this week against Vegas, I think this is where the Steelers kind of get a little bit more morale here. I feel like they're going to be able to do what they want against the Raiders defense. Max Crosby, he's a factor always, and every team knows it. So they're going to double team him, hold him, and get away with it like they did last time they met. Like they're not going to allow Crosby to be a factor at all. So, and nobody else on that defense is going to do much to stop it. So defense is still porous. I think this is the game where Kenny Pickett can kind of gain some confidence, boost up his stats a little bit, and have a little bit more success going into the following week. As far as the Raiders offense goes against the Pittsburgh defense, that's where it's interesting. Like here's the thing with the Raiders is Jimmy G. We all know he's classic case quarterback where he throws short to intermediate. He never throws it deep down the field because he can't, and everybody knows it. And even though the Raiders have Josh Jacobs back, that whole offense, everyone's wondering, well, why can't Jacobs run? Well, that's because Jimmy G can't stretch the field and create a threat there. So they don't have to play deep. They can all play short every single week. And they're like, okay, we're either defending the run or we're defending the pass. It's all short. So easy to play against. So Steelers might be licking their chops on this one.
Yeah.
I got the Steelers.
And you saw it last week. He had Devontae Adams right there in stride and underthrew him. He had to slow down for the ball and it ended up being, an incompletion because of it all. He got broken up. That if it's anybody else even that's got a stronger arm than that or whatever, he's catching that in stride and maybe getting some and maybe even scoring.
Oh, it's probably a touchdown. Yeah.
So that's the difference. Like you just said it flat out right there. So I'm in agreement with you here on Pittsburgh. I think they're going to come to play. I felt it last week. I said this seemed like it was a Pittsburgh game. They were going to take it, but I was like, I don't know. They didn't look so hot, so I went with Cleveland with that defense. But, I think if Nick Chubb also didn't go down that game, it's a whole different matchup too as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it was a tough one. But here, next up, now, first of all, we got Nathaniel here. He says he got him off of a waiver wire.
What?
Yeah. And then he says he's got the Cowboys, too, for that game. He goes, I'm not on Facebook or else I would tag the dude that released his name. His name is Coley Turner. So, Coley Turner, you are on call out there, buddy. Your name is out there. So,
wow.
We know who you are now. So there you go. You're on notice. All right, so next, we got Monday Night Football. We got two games again. I don't think it was that bad, though. With a staggered start, Joe, with it being an hour difference, the one game kind of went almost
I hated it.
Well, it went to halftime at a right point, and they do switch to the other game, too, when it's in halftime for a little time. One thing I will say about the broadcast, though, I don't mind Dan Orlovsky, but it was weird that they were – it seemed like him and whatchamacallit didn't know where to, start and talk.
The teleprompter and all that.
Yeah, no, the teleprompter here, but the color commenter guy too. He was terrible too. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but their B squad I don't really like. You know what I mean? Not really the best. I like Scott Van Pelt and those guys leading the way for those guys, and you've got Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and stuff. But the other team, not so much, not so well. Again, a lot of gaps in between plays, not really calling the game very well, and they have some work to do, I think, with that squad. But anyways, Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both teams 2-0, Joe. So somebody's got to fall here. Tampa Bay, it's been a good start. I think they've been beneficial to play some of the teams that they've played here. It's good for Baker Mayfield to get acclimated here with this. I think Tampa Bay is going to play it tough because I think the offense of Philadelphia has been slow at times. But again, stay behind that running game, and what Swift has been able to do though too is amazing. And I hate to say it as a Giants fan, but. They've just got talent all the way around. So I like the Philadelphia Eagles on this one.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not pick the Eagles? I mean, they've been despite their offensive struggles, they're still one of those teams that are definitely contenders. Buccaneers, well, however, even with Baker Mayfield's, not necessarily terrible performances, but slighted. Like, he's not on his A game. He's definitely still a work in progress for Tampa Bay. But still, he kind of gets the job done here and there. He's been able to find Mike Evans quite often. This is one of his favorite targets, and why not? And they've managed to keep the offense, pretty good, actually, like, moving forward. They've been able to be successful here time and time and there. I like the Buccaneers defense too. Like, I feel like that's going to be the real reason why this game might be closer than some people think. So of course I'm going to pick the Eagles, but I wouldn't be, if I'm an Eagles fan, I wouldn't be super confident in this matchup.
All right, there we go. All right. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, I think, still. It's going to be nice on Monday night. Next we've got
everybody shows out for the under the lights, man. Everybody shows out for prime time.
Yep. We've got the Rams and Cincinnati Bengals here. I think this is a matchup now because I think the Bengals have got to be in a do or die situation here if they're going to make it to the playoffs. And the Rams, they're a weird team to kind of gauge for me again. I thought they weren't going to be as good, but they have made some pretty good plays and played teams tough here and still got a win without Cooper Kupp. But whether they can do it against Cincinnati at home, I don't know. Cincinnati, they could bounce back. I know Joe Burrow's banged up, but I think if they, again, can get the running game going, alleviate some of that, pressure off of Joe Burrow, so then he's not, trying to put all the pressure on himself, which I think he does sometimes, like, Josh Allen would. I think they can get it done here, but in the jungle, it's tough to win. Tough to win here against the Bengals. So I'm going to go with the Bengals at home to turn it around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to go, but this is like one of those games where it literally could go either way. Burrow, we know, is banged up. The Rams know he's banged up. They're going to try to keep him moving around the pocket. They want him on the move. And honestly, I'm actually surprised about the Rams this year. I thought that they might struggle a little bit on defense because of all the turnover there. But man, some of their young players that they have are really starting to ball out, especially in the secondary. Offensively, we led everyone to believe that the Rams offense was going to be better than anticipated, and it is. Especially with rookies like Puka Nuka. He's really kind of splashed on the scene and has been his go-to guy with Cooper out of the lineup. And seems to be sprinkling the ball around more so than before Stafford is. So I like what they have going. And Kieran Williams for the Rams, the running back that is now the starter, looks really good so far. We saw him kind of like debut last week. And that's kind of the reason why they moved on from Akers there. I honestly am probably going to go with the Rams because of Cincinnati's struggles on offense, because I haven't seen any kind of spark like we saw last year. I'm not confident in picking them. I just can't. So I'm going to roll the dice and go with the Rams on this one, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Nathaniel says the guy that he beat has Burrow, Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Oh, the guy that beat him has Burrow, Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Metcalf, Samuel, Goddard, Kenneth Walker, the Browns D, special teams, and Graham Gano as a kicker. That guy's team stats. So everybody has a stacked team so that they could let a George Kittle go. That's what it is, Joe, I guess. And the Eagles and Steelers he's got. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
well,
but George Kittle's like top
still
5.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Yep. But there you go, Joe. That's our show for the week. We were able to get a decapitation of the weekend. It was nice to get back to that.
Yes.
We're going to get some more of those segments back out to you guys that you guys know and love. We really appreciate all the support. There's only about 30 seconds left before Joe gets cut off.
Real quick. Let me just chop in real quick.
Do it.
Hey, listen.
Oh, you lost it. So there you go, Joe. You're out. All right, so yeah, there we go. We lost Joe. All right, so that's it. That's the show for this week. I hope you guys appreciated it or liked it. We appreciate the sitting through the visual issues that we've been having. But Joe and I were trying to do this remotely here via Zoom and stuff, and Zoom's being dumb. But we got it done. Thank you so much, everybody chiming in with the comments. Keep them coming. He was going to say, if you haven't yet, subscribe to us on YouTube. Just Football on the No Show. Search it up there, and it comes right up. And also follow us on Spotify and everywhere you get your podcasts so you can listen to us on the go. We'll try and post there as much as we can too as well. And if you haven't been a group member on our Facebook, I know Nathaniel says he's not on Facebook. I'm not on there so much anymore either. But if you are, join our group. You'll get a lot of cool information too that you don't hear about in the headlines and stuff like that in mainstream football news. And that's it for the show. And we will see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.